Oh, wait, do you want?
Okay, we're reading The Science of Breath. We are on chapter 6, nostril breathing versus mouth breathing. One of the first lessons in yogi science of breath is to learn how to breathe through the nostrils and to overcome the common practice of mouth breathing. The breathing mechanism of man is so constructed that he may breathe either through the mouth or the nasal tubes. That is a matter of vital importance to him, which method he follows. As one brings health and strength and the other brings disease and weakness, it should not be necessary to state to the student that the proper method of breathing is to take the breath through the nostrils. But alas, the ignorance among civilized people regarding the simple matter is astounding. We find people in all walks of life habitually breathing through their mouths and allowing their children to follow their horrible and disgusting example. Many of the diseases to which civilized man is subject are undoubtedly caused by the common habit of mouth breathing. Children permitted to breathe in this way grow up with impaired vitality and weakened constitutions, and in manhood and womanhood break down and become chronic invalids. The mother of the savage race does better, being evidently guided by her intuition. She seems to instinctively recognize that the nostrils are the proper channels for conveyal of air to the lungs, and she trains her infant to close his little lips and breathe through his nose. She tips his head forward when it is asleep, which attitude closes the lips and makes nostril breathing imperative. In our civilized it, if our civilized mothers were to adopt the same plan, it would work a great good for the race. Many contagious diseases are contracted by disgusting habit of mouth breathing. In many cases of cold and catarrhal affections are also attributable to the same cause. Many persons who, for the sake of appearances, keep their mouth closed during the day persist in mouth breathing at night and often contract disease this way. Carefully conducted scientific experiments have shown that soldiers and sailors who sleep with their mouths open are much more liable to contract contagious diseases than those who breathe through the nostrils. An instance is related in which smallpox became epidemic on the man of war in foreign parts, and every death which resulted was that of some sailor or marine who has a mouth breather, not a single nostril breather succumbing. The organs of respiration have their only protective apparatus, filter or dust catcher in the nostrils. When the breath is taken through the mouth, there is nothing from mouth to lungs to strain the air or catch the dust or other foreign matter in the air. From mouth to lungs, the dearth of impure substance has a clear track, and their entire respiratory system is unprotected. And moreover, such incorrect breathing emits cold air to the organs, thereby injuring them. Inflammation of the respiratory organs often results in the inhalation of cold air through the mouth. The man who breathes through the mouth at night always awakens with a parched feeling in the mouth and a dryness in the throat. He is violating one of nature's laws and is sowing the seed of disease. One more, remember that the mouth affords no protection to the respiratory organs, and cold air, dust, and impurities and germs readily enter by that door. On the other hand, the nostril is the nasal passage show evidence of careful design of nature in this respect. The nostrils are two narrow, tortuous channels containing numerous bristly hairs, which serve the purpose of filter or sieve to strain the air of all its impurities, etc., which are expelled with the breath when the breath is exhaled. Not only do the nostrils serve this important purpose, but they also perform an important function in warming the air inhaled. The long, narrow, winding nostrils are filled with warm mucous membrane, which, coming in contact with the inhaled air, is so that it can do no damage to the delicate organs of the throat or to the lungs. No animal expecting man sleeps with the mouth open or breathes through the mouth. And in fact, it is believed that the only civilization who perverts nature's functions, as the savage and barbarian races almost invariably breathe correctly. It is probable that this unnatural habit among civilized men has been acquired through unnatural methods of living and en- enervating luxuries and excessive warmth. The refining, filtering, and straining apparatus of the nostril renders the airs fit to reach to delicate organs of the throat and the lungs, and the air is not fit to so reach these organs until it is passed through nature's refining process. The impurities which are stopped and retained by the sieves and mucous membranes of the nostrils are thrown out again by expelled breath in ex- exhalation. And in this case, they have accumulated too rapidly or have managed to escape through the sieves and have penetrated forbidden regions. Nature protects us by producing a sneeze which violently ejects the intruder. The air, when it enters the lungs, is as different from the outside air as distilled water from water of a cistern. The intricate purifying organization of nostrils, arresting and holding the impure particles in the air, is as important as is the action of the mouth in stopping cherry stones or and fish bones and preventing them being carried to the stomach. Man should no more breathe through his mouth than he would attempt to take food in through his nose. Another feature of mouth breathing is that the nasal passages, being thus comparatively unused, consequently fail to keep themselves clean and clear, and become clogged and unclean, and are apt to contract local disease. Like abandoning roads that should become filled with weeds and rubbish, unused nostrils become filled with impurities and foul matter. One who habitually breathes through the nostril is not likely to be troubled with clogged and stuffy nostrils. But for the benefit of those who have been more or less addicted to unnatural mouth breathing and whose wish to acquire the natural and rational method, it may perhaps be well to add a few words regarding the way to keep their nostrils clean and free from impurities. A favorite Oriental method is to snuff a little water up the nostrils, allowing it to run through the passage into the throat, and hence it may be ejected through the mouth. Some Hindu yogis immerse the face in a bowl of water and, and by a sort of suction draw in quite a quantity of water, but this latter method requires considerable practice, and the first mentioned method is equally efficacious, Ephesus, and much more easily performed. Another good plan is to open the window and breathe freely, closing one nostril with a finger or thumb, sniffing up the air through the open nostril. Then repeat the process on the other nostril. Repeat several times, changing nostrils. This method is usually clear the nostrils of any obstructions. In case the trouble of causing, in case the trouble is caused by the Catra is it is well to apply a little Vaseline or Camp Kurt ice, or similar preparation, or sniff up a little witch hazel extract once in a while, and you will notice a marked improvement. A little care and attention will result in the nostrils becoming clean and remaining so. We have given considerable space to the subject of nostril breathing, not only because it is great importance in the reference to health, but because nostril breathing is a prerequisite to the practice of breathing exercises to be given later in this book, and because natural breathing is one of the basic principles underlying the yogi science of breath, we urge upon the student the necessity of acquiring this method of breathing if he has not, and caution him against dismissing this phase of subject as unimportant.
I looked up that word, catarrh.
Yeah.
It is excessive discharge or buildup of mucus in the nose or throat associated with inflammation of the mucous membrane. That was a pretty funny chapter.
Yeah, it was a good one. You want to?
I think, yeah, keep reading. Unless anyone has anything to say, they can just unmute and then ask their question or say something.
Well, I think it's the whole part of cleaning out the nose is an interesting thing. It sounds very logical, but I've never done it. And I guess that's like people that do the neti pot and stuff. I've always been a little bit scared to try it.
Yeah, I have one, and I do it when I do the Ayurvedic cleanse for that week, but I don't do it throughout the year. And it takes a little adjusting when I lose my practice.
And getting used to it?
Yeah, and getting it like the right angle. But then once you get it, it's no problem. It's like so easy.
Yeah, I should try it.
But the first few days, I'm like, I feel like I'm drowning.
Yeah. Chapter 7, the 4 methods of respiration. In the consideration of the question of respiration, we must begin by considering the mechanical arrangements whereby the respiratory movements are affected. The mechanics of respiration manifest through 1, the elastic movements of the lungs, and 2, the activities of the sides of the bottom of the thoracic cavity in which the lungs are contained. The thorax is the portion of the trunk between the neck and the abdomen, the cavity of which, known as the thoracic cavity, is occupied mainly by the lungs and the hearts, and it is bounded by the spinal column and ribs with their cartilages. The breastbone ends below by the diaphragm is generally spoken of as the chest. It has been compared to a completely shut conical box, the small end of which is turned upward, the back of the box being formed by the spinal column and the front by the breastbone and the sides by the ribs. The ribs are 24 in number, 12 of each, and emerge from each side of the spinal column. The upper 7 pair are known as the true ribs, being fastened to the breastbone directly, while the lower 5 are called false ribs or floating ribs because they are not so fastened. The upper 2 of them being fastened by cartilage, and the other ribs, the remainder having no cartilage, their forward ends being free. The ribs are moved in respiration by 2 superficial muscular layers known as the intercostal muscles. The diaphragm and the muscles partition before alluded to separates the chest box from the abdominal cavity. The act of inhalation and the muscles expand the lungs so that a vacuum is created and the air rushes in accordance with the well-known law of physics. Everything depends upon the muscles concerned in the process of respiration, which we may, as for convenience, term the respiratory muscles. Without the aid of these muscles, the lungs cannot expand. And upon the proper use and control of these muscles, the science of breath largely depends. The proper control of these muscles will result in the ability to attain the maximum degree of lung expansion and the greatest amount of life giving properties of air into the system. The yogis classified respiration into 4 general methods: 1, high breathing; 2, mid breathing; 3, low breathing; 4, yogi complete breathing. We'll give a general idea of the three methods and a more extended treatment of the fourth, upon which the yogi science is largely based. 1, high breathing. This is a form of breathing is known in the Western world as clavicular breathing or collarbone breathing. One breathing in this way elevates the ribs and raises the collarbone and shoulders, and the same time drawing in the abdomen and pushing its contents up against the diaphragm, which in turn is raised. The upper part of the chest and lungs, which is the smallest, is used, and consequently, but a minimum amount of air enters the lungs. In addition to this, the diaphragm being raised can be no more expansive in that direction. A study of the autonomy of the chest will convince any student that in this way, the maximum amount of effort is used to obtain a minimum amount of benefit. High breathing is probably the worst form of breathing known to man and requires the greatest expenditure of energy with the smallest amounts of benefit. It is an energy wasting, poor returns plan. It is common with the Western races, many women being addicted to it, and even singers, clergymen, lawyers, and others should know better, using it ignorantly. Many diseases of the vocal organs and organs of the respiratory may be directly traced to this barbaridous method of breathing and the straining of delicate organs caused by this method. Often in harsh, disagreeable voices heard on all sides, many persons who breathe in this way become addicted to a disgusting practice of mouth breathing described in the preceding chapter. If the student has any doubts about what has been said regarding this form of breathing, let him try experiment of expelling the airs through his lungs when standing erect. This, with hands at all sides, let him raise the soldiers and collarbone and inhale. He will find that the amount of air inhaled far below the normal. Then let him inhale a full breath after dropping the soldiers and collarbone, and he will receive an object lesson in breathing, which he will apt to remember much longer than he would any words printed or spoken. I think that's probably a good stopping point. Mid breathing on page 35.
Okay. I was practicing that high breathing while you were reading, and now I just caused myself to have anxiety.
I know, it's not good. That's what I was thinking. That's like the anxiety breath when you don't get the breath all the way down.
It is a lot of work. I was doing it while I was laying down, and I'm like, I have to like stop myself from breathing deeper.
I just realized that before yoga, I used to breathe like that. I'm like,
Yep.
that explains a lot.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
I find it hysterical the way he describes it.
I know, it's really funny
About it.
I love it when he's like, disgusting creatures, those mouth breathers. I hope if someone's a mouth breather on this meeting that they're not offended.
When I run, I breathe out of my mouth, and it's such a bad habit. But I'm like dying. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. And I'm like, like out
Are
of my
you-
mouth.
Are you inhaling through your mouth or just exhaling?
Just exhaling.
Yeah, as a runner, that's what I was taught to do. So as runners, you're inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. So I'm
Oh,
wondering,
really?
I think it's okay.
I think for the exhale, I would be curious to know because he's talking more about the inhale being the problem.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but runners breathe out their mouth, but we inhale. I'm a former runner. I'm like, yeah. So yeah, you inhale through your nose. But I always think like for running, if I would have had this yoga practice, like the breath, the pranayama part of it, it would have helped me tremendously as a runner because breathing is a huge part of running. Like
Yeah,
that.
it expands your breath. Like you're definitely when you like yoga practice.
Yeah, for sure. And then it allows you to run long. It allows your endurance and speed to increase as a runner. Yeah, so that was one of when I transitioned from running to yoga, I was like, you got to keep your mouth sealed because in yoga, you just inhale and exhale with your nose.
I love the how he broke down the whole filtration system. It makes so much sense, but we don't pay attention in general. We just take so much that our body does for granted.
Mhm.
I was also wondering as we were reading if people who breathe through their nose are less likely to get corona.
That's what I was thinking too. Or just, I mean, he's saying just sick in general.
Yeah. And you think about when you get sick, it's normally you have a lot of mucus.
Yeah. Which is kind of weird because then you're forced to breathe through your mouth. So it's like, how are you supposed to get better? You got to really get all that mucus out.
Yeah.
All right. We can begin our breath work and meditation. Setting yourself up.
Well, this breath work was the third way of cleaning, right? That he mentioned today. The breathing through the alternate nostrils. That's
Oh, yeah.
It's the third way of cleaning the nostril passages.
Was that alternate though? Like,
No.
no,
is
right?
that
It was
alternate?
inhale, exhale from one side, and then you close and inhale, exhale from the other side.
Yeah. So it's similar, but he was more talking like if you have a clogged nostril,
Yeah.
you just hold the opposite side
Okay.
and then eventually it'll even itself out. I've done it before where like you have like one side of your nostrils clogged and
Yeah.
you can actually like even out your nose.
You know what I love to do? Well, when I'm stuffed up, there's a pressure point just outside, like below. It's parallel to the nostrils, just like below the cheekbones. And you'll feel it's more tender. So you'll know where it is. And it helps. I mean, if you do it when you're not clogged up, you'll feel the difference in the breath coming in. It's right. It gets a little, just one finger. Just like you can use the pointer finger. A little lower.
It's like a little bit tender to touch.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you breathe that way, you feel like more air coming in, like everything opens up.
Yeah, you're right.
When you're even for allergies, I have my kid, Catherine does that when she's old. I don't know where that breath comes from, though. I have no idea. I just know it helps.
I liked when he was like, you would not try to eat food through your nose.
No, yeah, that was a good one.
But yeah, I feel like of all his writings, this chapter was the most harsh. In the sense, like he was like pretty judgmental about.
Whoops, sorry. I wonder why they don't teach us anything about this in classes or
I don't know why we don't get this information. I don't know why, like, people that are sick, when they go to the doctors aren't like, well, did you try not, like, why isn't this information just, it's available free, because this PDF is free, so we all have access to it.
I think actually that that other book that I started to read but didn't finish, Breath,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was called Breath. Well, it started talking about this, and I believe they were saying that like they don't teach it in Western medicine, which would make sense that as to why we don't know about it.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Like doctors are not, they don't get trained in this matter. Like like it's not the way they're trained here. So they probably have no clue, so they can't recommend it.
Well, they're trained to prescribe a pill because there's money there.
Yeah, unfortunately, right.
Exactly.
That's
There's
why I
no
love
money.
doing this work, because then I know we can
There's
solve.
no cash flow in breeding.
What?
I said there's no cash flow in breeding.
No.
Or forest bathing.
All right, so let's take some nostril breaths and see if you can really build that. And I guess the next few days we'll go into the mid-level, the low level, and this Yogi complete breathing. But it's stuff we've been practicing every morning. So breathing in and out through the nose, really expanding the diaphragm as you inhale, breathing deep into the low lungs, and then exhale, letting it all come out. And then we'll take our right hand over to our face, close the right nostril with the thumb, inhale through the left, close the left, exhale right, inhale right, close right, exhale left, inhale left, close left, exhale right, inhale right, close right, exhale left, inhale left, close left, exhale right, inhale right, close right, exhale left. A few more rounds on your own breath. And when you feel ready, you'll exhale out the left side and set up for your meditation. I'm going to set the timer. You'll join us when you're ready. Bringing hands to your heart. Namaste. Have a good day, everybody.
Namaste.